Imagine standing on a windswept plateau in southeastern Turkey, the kind of place where the horizon swallows sound and time feels strangely suspended. As you breathe in the dust carried by the ancient wind, you're looking toward a mound, quiet, unassuming, almost empty. But beneath your feet lies something that redefines everything you've ever been taught about human civilization. Something older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older than agriculture, pottery, written language, older than any city humanity has ever built. This place is called Gobekli Tepe, and its purpose remains one of the greatest mysteries of our species. You may have heard it described as a temple, a sanctuary, a ritual complex, or the first sacred site ever built. But the more we discover, the more these labels feel like attempts to tame the uncomfortable truth. Gobekli Tepe doesn't fit into any known category of human behavior. It feels like a message carefully carved into stone, thousands of years before anyone was supposed to know how to carve anything at all. And tonight, as you listen, you'll find yourself walking deeper into its shadows, toward a story that challenges the timeline of civilization, questions our origins, and whispers about a forgotten chapter in the human journey. Before you go any further, consider this. The megaliths at Gobekli Tepe were erected 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid. That's not a typo, 7 millennia. When Egypt was still a collection of nomadic tribes, this place was already ancient. The people who built it had no metal tools, no wheels, no animals domesticated for hauling. According to all traditional theories, they were hunter-gatherers, drifting with the seasons, with no need or ability to build a massive stone sanctuary. Yet the stones here weigh up to 20 tons. Some stand over 5 meters tall, and they were carved with astonishing precision. So who were these people? And what were they doing? As you descend in your mind through the layers of soil, imagine archaeologists uncovering circular enclosures shaped like perfect rings. At the center of each stand, 2 towering T-shaped pillars facing one another like silent guardians or participants in a conversation that humanity is only now beginning to overhear. Surrounding them are more pillars, each carved with high-relief animals that do not appear in random combinations. Foxes, snakes, boars, vultures, scorpions, each chosen with intention, repeating across different enclosures, as if telling a symbolic story we no longer know how to read. Every detail feels deliberate. Every symbol feels like a word in a forgotten language. And that brings us to one of the great unspoken truths. Gobekli Tepe is less a construction site and more a library of stone. Except the books aren't written on pages, they're carved into monoliths that have watched more sunsets than all the world's empires combined. Archaeologists often avoid the word civilization when describing the builders of Gobekli Tepe, but the evidence pushes back. To haul these stones, you need organization, leadership, food surplus, knowledge of geometry, coordinated labor, and shared belief. Yet traditional timelines insist that all of this only appeared after agriculture, not before. But Gobekli Tepe stands as a contradiction carved in limestone, a place built by people we're told shouldn't have been able to build anything. So perhaps the better question is not who built it, but why they built it. Some researchers believe it was a gathering place for seasonal rituals, a site where scattered clans converged for ceremonies that strengthened social bonds. Others think it may have been a sanctuary for the dead, owing to the vulture carvings, which appear in early funerary practices across the region. The pillars could represent ancestral spirits, or deities, or both. But there's another theory, one rarely discussed openly because it challenges everything. Gobekli Tepe may have been an observatory. When you look at the central pillars, their orientation isn't random. Some align with celestial events, rising stars, solstices, particular regions of the night sky. There are carvings that resemble constellations. There are symbols that seem to depict celestial events, including one that some interpret as a record of a catastrophic cosmic impact, thousands of years before recorded history. If true, the site could have served as a memory stone, a warning carved by survivors of a forgotten disaster. But before your mind jumps to conclusions, consider the other side of the argument. The site shows no evidence of permanent living structures. No hearths, no dwellings, no signs of everyday life. That means people came here intentionally, with purpose, for reasons beyond survival or shelter. Something drew them to this place, something important. Now imagine for a moment that Gobekli Tepe wasn't built at the beginning of something, but at the end of something. What if the people who carved these stones weren't primitive pioneers, but descendants of an older knowledge passed down from a world erased by time? That's where the whispers begin. Stories of forgotten ancestors, lost cultures, and memories so old they turned into myths. The flood myths found across dozens of civilizations. Tales of a world that collapsed long before ours began. Is it possible that Gobekli Tepe was the last echo of a fading world trying to preserve what it could, or a first attempt to rebuild after a catastrophe? The truth is, parts of Gobekli Tepe were deliberately buried. Not destroyed, buried, as if someone wanted to protect it, or hide it, or preserve it for a time far beyond their own. Nobody buries a site like this by accident. It would have taken immense effort. Why would a society dedicate so much energy to entombing something they had spent centuries constructing? We may never have the answer, but the act itself speaks loudly. As you sit with that thought, imagine walking through the site at night, under a sky untouched by city lights. The silhouettes of the pillars rise around you like sentinels. You feel watched, not threatened, not judged, but observed by something ancient and patient, something that remembers. You run your fingers across the carved fox, its body curved with surprising fluidity for such early work. You realize you're touching a story told by hands that lived 12,000 years ago, hands that held no written alphabet, no recorded history. Yet they left behind a message more enduring than any book humanity would write for millennia. And the mystery deepens. Some pillars have arms carved on them, hands folded in front, suggesting that the T-shapes may represent stylized human forms. If that's true, these aren't just stones. They're beings. Guardians, ancestors, gods, or something else entirely. Something that meant so much to these people that they immortalized it in monolithic form. You can feel the strangeness of it. The builders didn't depict themselves as fragile, fleshy beings, but as towering stone entities, abstract and powerful. Why? What did they believe? What did they fear? What did they hope to preserve? As the night grows deeper in your mind's eye, imagine the flicker of torchlight reflecting on the polished limestone. Imagine the sound of drums echoing between the pillars. Imagine the ritual, the emotion, the meaning. Something important happened here. Important enough to shape the minds of generations. Maybe this was the birthplace of myth, the birth of gods, the birth of civilization, not through farming or tools, but through belief. And when the time came, they buried it, as if saying, this is not for now, this is for later. Maybe for us. And as we uncover more, layer by layer, pillar by pillar, symbol by symbol, we inch closer to a truth humanity has forgotten. Whether Gobekli Tepe was a temple, a sky map, a sanctuary for the dead, a monument to a lost world, or something far more complex. One thing is certain, it stands as a reminder that our past is far deeper, far stranger, and far more mysterious than we have been taught to imagine. When you next look at the stars, think of the people who stood here before you, people with no cities, no metal, no machines, and yet they carved out a message that outlived ice ages and empires. They reached across time, not with words, but with stone. And they are still speaking. The real question is, are we finally ready to listen?